Hey everyone, this is Barno here for AfterTaste Movies, and today was the nominations for the 92nd Annual Academy Awards, as announced by the Academy this morning around 8 a.m. And we are just going to do a quick rundown of the nominations, snubs, and kind of give you our opinion on a few of the categories of why things might have gone one way or another. So we're going to just start with some of the lesser categories and make our way up. Some of these categories might be quick, and just because they're just obvious. So we're going to start with the makeup and hairstyling category. And I'm sorry if I look off into the distance right this way. This is where I have my TV with the nominations all pulled up. The nominations for makeup and hairstyling are Bombshell, Joker, Judy, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and 1917. Not much to talk about during this one. It is interesting to see Maleficent getting a nomination. That was a well-received film that is not getting talked about a lot, but you wouldn't think it'd be nominated for an Oscar, so it's kind of cool to see that there, as a diehard Disney fan and all that good stuff. But also we see Judy, who might be a runaway for this makeup situation, kind of like Christian Bale a few years ago being fully turned into Winston Churchill. Renee Zellweger was completely turned into Judy Garland, so we'll see if that runs away with it. 1917 also has very, very well done makeup and hairstyling and all and such. We'll see. There's no runaway like there was with the Paul Thomas Anderson film a couple years ago, but not much I can say about in the way of snubs with the makeup and hairstyling. Film editing. Now this one is interesting. Normally the best editing, the film editing award goes to somebody who's probably going to be the front runner for an Oscar, and I don't see that happening this year. I think that film editing, the nominees being The Irishman, Ford v Ferrari, Parasite, Joker, and Jojo Rabbit, are all fantastic choices for nominations. They all deserve it. Their editing is all spot on. I think the one that's egregiously missing is 1917. The entire film is edited as one shot, which gives it so much of its amazingness, basically. So much of the intensity is brought into the film by the fact that it is edited in this way, and they had to make that decision to do that. So the whole film was based on its editing work and cinematography of Roger Deakins. So the fact that it's not even in the film editing category is egregious. I'm not sure what's going on with that. As for film editing, I could see this going to multiple different situations, but they're all deserving. Not much to say in the way of snubs either. Moving on to visual effects. Visual effects normally is where you see a lot of the love for the blockbusters during the year. No surprise this year we have Avengers Endgame, Lion King, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, The Irishman, and 1917. I think it's a weird split this year where you have your blockbusters in Endgame, Lion King, and Star Wars, but The Irishman and the 1917 were the ones that had the most well done and impressive visual effects. Mostly I'd say 1917. A lot of people are high on The Irishman when it comes to this category, but I don't even think it was very well done. I was not really impressed by the de-aging and up-aging of people in this movie. I enjoyed it, but it's a different level. But it normally does go to somebody in the blockbuster realm. I'd put money on Endgame or Lion King in this category. We'll see. Once again, not really anything egregious on there. Original score, which is an interesting one every year. This year's category nominations are 1917 for Thomas Newman, Joker for Hildur Guðmundsdóttir, Little Women for Alexander Desplat, Marriage Story for Randy Newman, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker for the legend John Williams. Once again, this happens every year. John Williams makes his way on there for a Star Wars or something of the sorts. One of the best people of our time when it comes to making scores. And it's not a surprise to see him on there. It's like the 59th time he's been nominated for an Oscar. Not even joking, I don't think. But when it comes to this category, this whole award season has been coming down to 1917, Joker, and Little Women, with Hildur mostly wiping the floor with everybody else. So we'll see what happens there, but I don't have any problems with any of those nominations. And then we get down to the ones that are much lesser known for me specifically. The live-action short films, Brotherhood, Nefta Football Club, The Neighbor's Widow, Syria, and A Sister. I can thoroughly say I've never seen any one of those. I can't give you my opinion. I can't say if it's snub or if it's deserved, but I'm going to go with deserved because they're all getting recognition for some reason. Go check them out. They're probably pretty good. Animated short film. I've seen one of these. Not this one. The Desera, which is Daughter, Hair Love, Kit Bull, Memorable, and Sister. I saw Kit Bull on Disney Plus. It's a Spark Short original short that debuted on November 12th on the launch of the Disney Plus platform. It's a story of a kitten stuck in a junkyard who befriends an abused pit bull junkyard dog, and it's a long journey. It's really, really emotional, and it was very, very well done. And also the animation of it was so different, and I think it's something extremely worth checking out. I think that I haven't seen the other ones. I've only seen that one, but it was spectacular. So go see Kit Bull if you can. It is on Disney Plus streaming right now. Okay, so sound mixing, can't really question any of these either. 1917, Ford v Ferrari, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Ad Astra, and Joker. The standouts in sound mixing this year for me were 1917 and Joker. I think those are the runaways. Ad Astra is one of those sci-fi films where I think was a bit of an Oscar bait to begin with, but it never had the traction and it never had the run that it was hoping for. It is getting a bit of love in the sound mixing and visuals, so we'll see if it actually gets any love, but it probably won't. And the other ones, Ford v Ferrari, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, both had extremely practical sound effects in their films, so it's kind of cool to see them get nominated as well. But I think it's a runaway between Joker and 1917. Once again, really hard to tell these categories apart because they're mostly always the same films. We have 1917 for sound editing in general. 1917, Ford v Ferrari, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Joker. Once again, I'd say it's probably a runaway between 1917 and Joker. But once again, you can't count out Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with its practical sound effects. And Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker, it's the one thing it always has going for it, even if you don't appreciate the plot or the storylines or where they go, is the sound quality. So that is once again being honored this year more than anything else for the Star Wars. Moving on to costume design. Nominations were Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Little Women, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, and Joker. Yeah, those were the 5 best designed costumes of the year. So it makes sense that they're all on there. There's no clear winner for me on this one. I think Little Women has an excellent chance to be given something this year, and this would probably be it for them, just because of all the excellent design. So we'll see. We'll see. I think that has a good chance, but there's no question with that one that they're all deserving. Cinematography. This one is 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Irishman, The Joker, and my favorite nomination this year, The Lighthouse. 1917 with Roger Deakins is going to win this award. There's not a question. It hasn't lost anything on the way up to this, and it's unavoidable. It's inevitable, one would say. But the fact that The Lighthouse got some love is amazing. This was one of my favorite films of the year. I cannot recommend it for almost anybody I talk to because it's so freaking weird. But everybody I've talked to about this film has one good thing to say, and that's how amazingly shot it was. From the angles to the colors to the fact that it was shot in a different aspect ratio, and it's all meant to mess with your brain. It all takes masterful job to accomplish that. And they did that in The Lighthouse. So I'm glad that at the very least, it's been snubbed in other categories. At least, The Lighthouse is getting some love in cinematography. Once again, I love the fact that that's on there. Production design, no, not a lot of questions on this one. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Irishman, 1917, Jojo Rabbit, and Parasite. I think those are all well deserved. Up to probably the most controversial one this year, as it is every single year, the Best Director category. 5 male have been nominated once again this year. Only 5 female have been nominated for this category, I believe in like 30 years. So that's a little bit frustrating for a lot of the watchers. But this year's nominations are star-studded with Martin Scorsese, The Irishman, Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, Sam Mendes for 1917, and Todd Phillips for Joker. So it's hard to argue against any of these people because each one of these films had such a specific direction. I have not been as high on The Irishman as a lot of people I know and talk to. So if there was an odd man out for me specifically, I would say Martin Scorsese might have been pushed into this conversation just due to the Scorsese brand. I could easily see Greta Gerwig getting in for Little Women in that spot. Sam Mendes has been winning a lot of awards coming up to the Oscars. A bit of a surprise, but I think everybody else, Bong Joon-ho, Quentin Tarantino, Todd Phillips, are just so good in their movies this year that it's hard to say that I would knock any of them out. Scorsese's deserving of a nomination, but in such a strong year, I think it's important to have diversity, and I would knock him out for Greta Gerwig. Also, there's a bunch of other female directors that deserve recognitions this year. The director of Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, director of Farewell, which also got quite a bit of nothing this year. So hard to say. I'd knock Scorsese out, put Greta Gerwig in, but they're all deserving. Moving up to actress in a leading role, Cynthia Erivo for Harriet, Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan for Little Women, Renee Zellweger for Judy, and Charlize Theron for Bombshell. So with this one, super happy Cynthia Erivo is getting some recognition. I saw Harriet earlier this year. It was fantastic. Besides that, it's a lot of the same. Scarlett Johansson had the role of her career. Think she's deserving. Renee Zellweger is the runaway winner with this category. Saoirse Ronan, Charlize Theron, I can give or take. Saoirse Ronan was like the third or fourth favorite part of Little Women for me. So it's hard for me to put her in this category when there is such an egregious snub this year. And there's always an egregious snub in the Oscars. And specifically this year, it is the snub of Lupita Nyong'o in Jordan Peele's Us. That film came out early in the year, which really hurt it. I think if it came out in November, it might have extra push on it right now. But she plays two different roles. She plays a voided version of herself and the real-time version of herself. And the film was so insanely well shot and well done that it was so underappreciated by a lot of people this year because Get Out was so new and different when it came out the prior year that when this movie came out, it had an unrealistic expectation and people just didn't get into it. It had much less audience score. Critics still really loved it, so I thought there was a chance that maybe they would give her something this year, but they really they didn't. A lot of the other guilds, she was up for a Golden Globe and SAG Award, and she got a lot of recognition, but I could take her over Saoirse Ronan or Charlize Theron in this category, and I think that'd be great. I think that would have been really, really big into helping this Oscar So White problem, and it's a problem. I think she deserved it, but Saoirse Ronan, Academy sweetheart, she's been nominated 2 or 3 times in like the last 5 years, and Charlize Theron is Charlize Theron. So it's not surprising, but it's a bummer, to be honest. Actor in a leading role is the next category. Antonio Banderas, Pain and Glory, Leonardo DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver for Marriage Story, Joaquin Phoenix for The Joker, and Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of surprises in these nominations this morning, but there's been a frontrunner this entire season with Joaquin Phoenix. Adam Driver is the only legitimate person that could come up and surprise him, but everybody else has been up in the air. Jonathan Pryce has been nominated for just about every awards circuit. Leonardo DiCaprio is Leonardo DiCaprio. Antonio Banderas is Antonio Banderas. I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, probably my favorite movie of the entire year last year, and there was multiple moments in that film where I saw Leonardo DiCaprio being worthy of an Oscar, but I may be a little bit looking too far into that, as in there might have just been a few scenes, the one specifically in the RV where he's questioning himself and drinking and just super funny, and when he's acting with that wonderful young actress. I think that those stood out so much that I feel like his performance might have been not as good as it was. Either way, I'm not surprised he got a nomination. A couple ones that I was bummed about, but once again, not surprised. Starting off with Eddie Murphy in Dolomite Is My Name. Dolomite Is My Name was fantastic. I loved it. I thought he was an extreme long shot, but it would have been such a cool thing to see. The Sandman didn't get no love this year. I think it was the role of a lifetime for Adam Sandler, and it's discouraging to see him not get recognition for it as much as they deserve. Uncut Gems got completely snubbed altogether, and I mean, not surprised again. He sent out a tweet this morning where he's like, no love for the Sandman, but God bless you, Mama. Congratulations. Referring to his mom and the Waterboy, Kathy Bates. So she was nominated for Best Actress in a Supporting Role, and it was wonderful. So I mean, he's at least taken it well, but I think that was kind of a bummer. And the other one was probably when I think about it, the least surprising to get snubbed, but my biggest bummer. And that would be Taron Egerton for Rocket Man. I think he delivered such a iconic performance that got so overlooked this year just due to the fatigue in musical films. They think people were high on it last year, and right now it's a bummer. I believe you shouldn't compare movies to movies, performances to performances that are similar like this, but when it comes to Sami Malek last year, he didn't have the strongest competition. And I think that's really what it comes down to this year is Taron Egerton is going up against Joaquin Phoenix in one of the biggest roles of his life, Leonardo DiCaprio, Adam Driver in the role of his life, and Tony Banderas. I'm not surprised that he didn't get nominated, but he had such an iconic performance. He did all of his singing, all of his dancing. He was transformative. He was moving. His acting was just crazy. And I feel like it deserves recognition. I'm so happy that it won the Golden Globe for Best Comedy and Musical at the Golden Globes. I'm so glad that he got that win there, just so he could have something to hang his head on. But he did such a wonderful job, and I'm bummed to see him not in there. But once again, it's a two-horse race. Always has been. Joaquin Phoenix, Adam Driver. Not so surprised on that one. Moving up to original screenplay, Marriage Story, Once Upon a Time, Parasite, Knives Out in 1917. Not really a surprise for me on here. Knives Out, though, I'm really happy to see it get something. It got snubbed in a bunch of other categories, but at least it made it into something, and I think this doesn't have a chance to win, but I'm glad it made it on there for something. Adapted screenplay, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Little Women, The Two Popes, and Joker. I think The Two Popes is a bit surprising for me to be on here, but besides that, not much you could say. Adapted screenplay, those are all deserving. Animated feature, a bit of a surprise. Frozen 2 has been left off this list, where it's been on basically every other circuit's list. The nominations are How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, I Lost My Body, Claws, Missing Link, and Toy Story 4. Missing Link taking the Golden Globe out of nowhere at the Golden Globes for Best Animated Film. Once again, I Lost My Body, very surprising pick on here. I have not seen it, but I've heard it's wonderful. But Frozen 2 has been left off, which was the biggest animated film ever, I think, this year. So that did very big snub for Disney in that category. But Toy Story 4, Missing Link, frontrunners, and I'm not sure why Missing Link's on here. I was not a big fan whatsoever. I think Toy Story 4 might be destined to just take it all together. So we're going up to Best Original Song. I'm Standing With You, which is also out of nowhere from the film Breakthrough. Into the Unknown, which is from Frozen 2. Stand Up, Harriet, I'm Gonna Love Me Again by Rocket Man. And I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away by Toy Story 4. Once again, Standing With You, Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away. Both songs that came out of nowhere, really, in the nomination for this year. It's been a 1-2 punch between Into the Unknown and I'm Gonna Love Me Again with Rocket Man really pulling ahead during the Oscar season. So those are going to be up there for that. Documentary feature. This is a big one. Apollo 11 has been left off the list. The Oscars don't know how to nominate... they don't know how to nominate documentary features. This year, American Factory, The Edge of Democracy, Honeyland, For Sama, and The Cave have been nominated for Best Documentary Feature, but egregiously left off Apollo 11, which was the frontrunner. It's just amazing to me how they continue to get this category wrong. They got the Mr. Rogers documentary last year wrong, not even nominated, and it continues to be a joke. Once again, can't take that one seriously. Documentary short, In the Absence, Learning to Skateboard in a War Zone, If You're a Girl, Life Overtakes Me, St. Louis Superman, and Walk, Run, Cha Cha. Never seen any of those. Go check them out. Foreign language film. Bit of an interesting one this year, with a couple of these being Best Picture nominations. South Korean's Parasite. Spain's Pain and Glory. France's Les Miserables. Not that one. North Macedomia's Honeyland. And Poland's Corpus Christi. I think Parasite and Pain and Glory are frontrunners in this category, but Parasite is destined to win that one. Actor in a supporting role. Tom Hanks for Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Anthony Hopkins for Two Popes. Al Pacino for The Irishman. Joe Pesci for The Irishman. And Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Tom Hanks has his first Oscar nomination in 19 years. Anthony Hopkins is something like that. Same with Pacino, same with Pesci. They're all like 20 years since their last nominations. Brad Pitt is the most recent to get a nomination. Also, Brad Pitt seems to be the frontrunner for this role, but I'd also say that Willem Dafoe was majorly snubbed in this category for his role in The Lighthouse. Anthony Hopkins, I can give or take in his performance of The Two Popes, but I think Willem Dafoe might have been snubbed in this category. Might be worth checking out. Once again, I can't even say go watch The Lighthouse because I don't know if you like it. But he did fantastic. Actress in a supporting role, Mama from The Waterboy, as I mentioned before, Kathy Bates in Richard Jewell, Laura Dern in Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson in JoJo. Also one of my favorite performances this year, Florence Pugh in Little Women, and Margot Robbie in Bombshell. Once again, frontrunner Laura Dern and Scarlett Johansson in this one. Scarlett Johansson has been nominated for 2 Oscars this year, which does not happen very often, for a lead role and a supporting role. This one is actually for Jojo Rabbit. So she's really getting a lot of love. Laura Dern has won a lot of the awards coming up to this, but she was better in Little Women. Either way, she's a frontrunner for this category, and I can't say more than the fact that I think that there's 2 egregious people on this list that were left off, with Awkwafina in The Farewell, who won many awards coming up to this. I could give or take the performance of Margot Robbie in Bombshell. I'm really happy to see Florence Pugh get in there. I don't think she has a chance. Kathy Bates was the best part of Richard Jewell, which Richard Jewell for me didn't hit. So it's unfortunate. I could easily take Jennifer Lopez and Awkwafina, and that would have helped. I mean, it's another one of the egregious parts where these actresses just didn't get nominated. I don't understand what happened there. Awkwafina was a for sure lock for most people, but she just didn't get in. So once again, Awkwafina deserves some. She deserves some love. I don't know what happened there. And then this year we have, I believe, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pictures nominated for Best Picture this year, which is up from the normal average, which is around 8. It can go up to 10, but with the algorithm, it can't physically ever get there. So for Best Picture this year, nominations are Ford v Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Marriage Story, Parasite, and 1917. Looking at this list, it's extremely predictable. Not much of a surprise. The only surprise being that it got pushed to 9. I think that the top 8 were pretty much locks for the most part. I said from the very beginning, the best chances to get nominated for the most Oscars this year were The Irishman, Joker, Once Upon a Time in 1917. I believe Joker had the most with 11, and in that order, they had the highest nomination counts. So those were all locks. Jojo Rabbit had a lot going for it. Little Women had a lot going for it. Parasite, so much buzz on it. And Marriage Story, so much buzz for it. So it's not much of a thing. It is, once again, it's hard to knock any of these movies off the list. There were films that did get overlooked, like The Farewell. There were films that didn't quite get in there that might have deserved more of a recognition. Just Mercy, Waves, things like that of diversity that were just all kind of missed. But it's not much of a thing. I can't really knock any of these things off. I could push Ford v Ferrari off. I think it's one of the crowd favorites, which is probably why it made it on. But either way, Best Picture nominations this year: Ford v Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Marriage Story, Parasite, and 1917. And for the award race going up to it, 1917, The Irishman and Joker have been wiping the floors with the rest. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood won a few awards as well. So it's really hard to say what the front runners for Best Picture this year are. I'd say it would be my top four again: Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and The Irishman, with the outside chance that maybe Joker sneaks up and prevails. But either way, we'll see. The Oscar Awards on February 9th this year. Let me double check. I think it's the 9th, though. Jeez, oh. Sorry, I should have been more prepared. Yeah, February 9th this year at 5 o'clock. Red carpet starts at 3:30 that year. AfterTaste will be having a full party and coverage of that. And we are very excited for the Oscars coming up. And thanks for checking out our video of of the nominations and our thoughts on it. Check us out on YouTube and all of our other platforms. This will be out on podcast form as well on Spotify, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Once again, this is Barno here at AfterTaste. Thanks for checking us out, and happy movies.